Well, I think this seems very simple a question, but I think it's very basic and difficult a question to answer. After all, we live with language, we live in language, and if we decide at a certain moment in our life to use language as writers, as if we are taking some part from the sea that we already live in to make a statue of this part of sea itself. I think I was sensible towards since my adolescence period, or even before this, when I was writing some articles in the high school. My colleagues and some teachers suspected that I was the one who writing this. They suppose somebody helping me or this. I felt always a bad need to express. If there is some time that I cannot, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months with no expression, a lot of tension happens inside me, and sometimes even physical tension. And later, of course, I have different point of view. Writing now is a different thing for me. When I have some exceptional experience that taught me that my deepest identity is a writer before anything else. And to discover this in a certain moment of enlightenment was very spiritual, special moment in my life. After this, writing became a different thing for me. It's the way I breathe, in fact, and without writing, I cannot imagine how can, with all these things that I feel, with all things that I need to express, and at the same time, if there is no writing, maybe I will explode. Yeah, that will be too much tension inside me. Yeah, so of course, there is another, we can also consider the question from another point of view. My way of thinking about the life and the human existence, that we live in a very huge mass of nothingness. And writing, for me, is a way to surpass this huge mass of nothingness. Of course, I know it's just a try, just an attempt to find out some meaning, but whether, of course, I doubt if we can figure out any kind of final meaning or ultimate meaning or concrete meaning. But at least this kind of attempt is all what we have, is all what we can try. In fact, I worked for many years, I think for around 20 years as an architect. And I was writing all this time. And later I turned to media. I worked in TV, and then now I'm working in radio. When I was working like an architect, as an architect, it took, the major portion of my day. So really, I didn't have enough time to speculate things, to reorganize things, to organize the furniture inside my soul. But later, when I started, working with media, later I could manage to have some free time, which in fact is not a free time. It's really a time of real work. I mean, to get your manuscripts, to make changes, to translate, to type. I mean, as Arthur Rimbaud says once, that the poet is the terrible worker. Because if the normal worker can rest some hours, the writer or the poet, there is no rest. He can be called even in the midnight, I mean, or any time. So, and of course, after the removal of dictatorship, I could publish much more freely. So having more time and the freedom of publishing make me could publish in the last 5 years almost one book yearly. What made me start translating, in fact, it already started mainly with Emily Dickinson. When I wrote her original text in English, and I read some bad translation in Arabic. So I felt the motive to how far can we translate this kind of great work into Arabic, especially that it is, it's not very clear work. It can be interpreted in quite different ways. So how can we make a twin in Arabic that can breathe and live inside Arabic letters and sounds for this kind of literature? And that was the beginning when I started my trip with translation Emily Dickinson. Then it in fact developed to other, for example, to the Argentinian Luis Jorge Borges, and to some American poets. Especially I published an anthology of recent American poetry. I included 25 poets, and now soon will be with Frost and Wallace Stevens and Langston Hughes. So because when I feel I'm a great piece of art in other language, I really feel sometimes the action of translation in certain moments can be as inspiring and as very close to the real original writing moment. That's part of the story. The other part, many books are not translated into Arabic. So I have to read. If I want to read, for example, for any of those or many other writers, I have to read English. They are not translated simply into Arabic. So reading and translating became this kind of, linked strongly, the two processes. While I'm reading, only because there are not too many good translations into Arabic. At the same time, it grows up that I translate those poems, and I have, of course, many projects about this. So far, no. It was only me that I translate my work into English. And of course, this is the thing that translating, of course, from English to Arabic much more easier to me in the other direction, because the roots and the echoes and the history of each word is quite different. I mean, the structure of the sentence. So I can translate roughly into English, but I need this editing. Only lately, when I came to the IWP, I had the good opportunity to start working with Chris Merrill about editing my translations. He thinks they are almost finished, almost done, but they need some final touch here or there. And in fact, it's very interesting because when we discuss about these tiny details, almost we go to very deep, visions behind the poems. It's very interesting, and this is my in fact project now, to continue translating my last poetry collection and to keep contacting with Chris about editing it, and I hope that at last I will have something in English. Yeah, mainly the secular persons and the intelligentsia are separated now from the all of the society. Their role is very tiny or minor, and this kind of huge tension, political tension about among major parties, religious parties and sectarian parties. Those who have the voice of intellect, who want more free life, more progressive. In fact, it's hard for them to find a place for their sound voices. On the other hand, Saddam regime and dictatorship managed to distract the intention to about culture in the new generation. The new generation almost doesn't read. So writing and whatever kind of writing and any other cultural activity, it's very difficult to contact the society. No. It's almost separated and for some kind of elite, and sometimes writers even they only read for each other. This is major problem. But on the other hand, we continue writing, we continue making our weekly activities. We are, of course, some writers can be involved more in politics. Some other writers can focus on aesthetic issues. But generally now, maybe what's happening now in all the Arab world will change the image, which will change the situation. And when there is there will be more freedom of expression and more interest in culture, that make the writers, more influential maybe in their societies. Of course, there are always some, good writings, but in fact, for me, I have some certain, standards that may, about what good writing and what is great writing. And there is a difference. So for me, in fact, I mainly read international literature because I find there the depths that they are not common in Arab literature. The combination of emotional and intellectual, the combination of high aesthetic values and deep way of thinking. It's hard to find this sometimes, most of the time in Arab culture, not only in Iraqi culture. So because I have this kind of inclination, I mainly read for international writers who can manage those both things at the same time. But I think, yeah, there are some experiments, and there are some writers that should be, they should be translated to the other world. And of course, we know many people might have an idea about Iraq only from political point of view, especially after 2003 and all what happened. But very few, maybe, persons know really the heartbeat of the Iraqi society through literature. I can say so far the most influential writer on me is Luis Jorge Borges. After reading his pieces, not only my sense of beauty is affected, but sometimes after enough time, even the way I look to things can be changed. When I translated the American poetry, recent American poetry, I was, astonished by the variety of high quality voices. I mean, there are a lot of variety, but each voice, each poet in his own way, in his own atmosphere, in his own, or her, of course, world, had reached some area of high quality writing. So, yeah, this is, another part. St. John Birth still for me is, the great poet in many aspects. The way he, especially his images, the way he put them together is something I think very unique. You can, if we talk about fiction, we can talk about Milan Kundera. I love too much the way that he shattered the regular time and the regular fiction, the narrative time. So he can shift between different levels of time so softly and with no effort almost. And I think only great writers can shift from very different topics suddenly with no effort, because they know how to link those things in the depth. I started when I came here to look to the sky, and just as if wondering, is it the same color in my country? Are the stars the same? Sometimes I feel that state is very big, beautiful woman that lies between two oceans, the West Coast and the East Coast. So, and really, literally, when I came here at the beginning, I was touching things by my finger. I mean, streets, walls, trees, bench, things like to feel. But also, I was curious about the basic fabric of life behind all this propaganda and politics, and how do the American people live in their daily life away from all this media. And this was important for me. I mean, maybe because I'm a writer, because I'm a poet, because I don't know. So really I had the chance now to feel, after all, who are the Americans? But for me, in fact, I'm this kind of person who can only spiritual moments can stick to his memory. And if I talk about spiritual moments, as I said before, on my birthday, which was when we were in Chicago, I went to the lake and I dipped my finger inside the water of the lake. This was my way of celebration of life and nature in this place. I wrote some lines on the sand. This for me can stick inside me much more, for years, this moment. Also, when we passed by the Mississippi, it was a very special moment. In fact, I washed my face and washed my hair by the water of Mississippi, which I only read about, but now I could touch it. I will not forget those moments. When I touched the water of the Mississippi, I felt all the centuries of civilization, all the effort to make the American culture, this as again the basic fabric of life that continue through days and years and centuries. I have, but mainly I was here, I opened the windows for my perceptual reception. In those 2 months, I was mainly collecting data. Yeah, images, visions. I think they will show up sooner or later in my writing, but I don't know when exactly. But I feel now I'm perceptually rich. I have a lot of perceptual data, and but I don't know when they will show up. When I came here, the basic intellectual state of mine was the comparisons. I couldn't help making comparisons all the time about every detail. And I think when I will go back, I will keep comparing things all the time. That enriched, I think, this trip enriched my sense about many things, especially that I'm always try to put the local inside the universal, the temporary inside the eternal. And now, since I have could touch the fabric of the American life, I feel that will sooner or later will make some radical changes in my perception about many things, which at last show up in writing.